Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip hip hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In Cutoff Genes.
Hey guys, we're doing a little crossover extravaganza today.
I'm really excited.
We have fellow podcaster,
Podcasters.
Eve Sturges from the Everything's Relative podcast, which is generally about NPEs.
Yeah. I would say more than anything, it's about NPEs.
Okay.
But we, with some flexibility because I can do whatever I want because it's my podcast.
Because you're a grown ass woman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You've not done DNA.
Right.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to that first. Mm-hmm. Please do tell your story. Tell me the background and just tell me about yourself and tell me what you think is relevant.
Yeah. Okay. So here is what happened to me. A year and a half ago, I was just going along my day, and my husband sent me a message he sent me a screenshot of a message that came to him on Facebook that said, I really need to talk to you about your wife. And here's some details about her childhood or like early years. And so please contact me. And the information that he gave was super detailed and intimate information that like no one would know despite
outside of the family.
Despite like a lot of my information is out there or like my life is an open book in a lot of ways.
They probably wouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that I know everybody that knows us, but I was looking at this man and I have no idea. His name wasn't coming up. Nothing was coming up for me. So I said, well, I guess you better call him. And I was pretty scared. And I there's a few like complicated details about the first years of my life that made me think it was going to be about that, or I had a sister that was adopted and I thought maybe it was going to be about her. And
That was adopted in or out?
in.
Okay.
And that's another complicated story, but so I thought maybe it was because it mentioned her in the message. So I just went on to work and was sitting in a meeting, and my husband started calling me. And so I finally said, I have to step outside and take this call. And he said, hey, everything's fine. I'm going to come pick you up. And so
right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's pouring rain, which it so rarely does in LA. So it just added to the surrealness of the day. It wasn't even like we were in LA. And he came and picked me up, and I got in the car, and he said, he said a lot of really lovely things, but about loving me and supporting me no matter what. And he just talked to this man, and the man says that he had an affair with my mother, and he believes he's my real dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Had you ever had any inkling of this at all?
No. And in fact, it's so interesting to me how many people in the NPE community say, I always wondered, I always thought, I always felt different.
Yeah.
Not including the people that ask questions because there's like a very obvious physical difference or something. But so I can say, yes, I felt different and like an oddball in my family.
But it never occurred to you.
But that never occurred to me. It was just not like that. I just thought, and plus, I think almost everybody feels like they're an oddball at some point in their life. It's really rare to find someone that's like, nope, we all fit in and we were just a really tight-knit group.
Perfect.
And I was full and sure of myself from the beginning. And we all matched,
Right.
So those things, so yes, I felt different, but not in a way that made me think. And although...
Well, and your mother is your mother, obviously.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, or, another funny element that of course would never have come up again if this hadn't happened, is that in the second grade, this girl named Siobhan asked if I was adopted because my brother and my sister are blonde. and I said no, but then we had a long discussion about how it seems like it would be really cool to be adopted.
Interesting.
And so that's the only, I keep thinking like, oh, Siobhan asked me that in the second grade. She knew. She could tell. Children's intuition. So at that point, I just thought, well, like the logical thing to do is to do a DNA test that will just scientifically answer this without getting anybody's emotions involved.
Right. You mean like a paternity test
Yes.
with him? Okay.
Yeah. So we...
So now your husband told you this, and then when did you talk to the potential dad?
Within the week, a couple days.
Okay. Maybe
Maybe right away. I honestly, it's all a little blurry and a little bit upside down. But it didn't. I mean, maybe obviously it didn't occur to us to do like to do it via like a commercial mail-in kit.
Right.
So we found a company on the internet, and what they would do is they arranged for you to go to a facility in your own place. So he went to a facility in Florida, and I went to a facility here in Los Angeles. Oh. And then we both mailed our sample. The facilities mailed our samples in.
Gotcha. But they have to like check your ID and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Okay.
And scrape your cheeks really hard.
Really hard.
And then really hard. I was like, whoa.
Painfully so.
Yeah. Like that is not what I imagined that was going to feel like. And then it came back that 99.999999, he was my father, is my father. So that's really like the hot deets of like what was the impetus of all of this.
Right.
And sort of immediately got thrust into sort of all the things that people who have this happen talk about, as far as sort of a somewhat existential crisis about identity and confusion and suddenly a very changed relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
And in that process became involved in the NPE communities online and was just blown away to discover how many people are going through this.
Especially in the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah. Just, I mean, we don't need to belabor the subject, but
yeah,
because if you're listening to this, I think you know, but I just couldn't believe it. And what struck me the most was how, if this is happening so frequently to so many people, and almost everybody is, the situation is complicated by shame on some level, right?
Yes.
So it's like you're a secret, or your mom had a secret, or there was a secret. Like it's just so destructive, and so there's a part of me that just wants to say like, well, if all of these people, if all almost to all the moms, like all these moms had these secrets, like what if you had known that it was actually very, very common? Or So I just started talking to people and just asking them their stories.
Did you do it? Was it a way for you to just not feel crazy?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Understanding of it. Yeah. And part of it is knowing myself as someone who processes. I'm an out loud processor. I just went over it and over it and over it and over it so many times.
That's funny. Out loud processor. That's a good way to put it.
And then I felt like other people sort of had that same need. And I also I thought there's no resources for people who are in this position there's no resources to gain information to be able to make an educated decision, whether that's a person who's an NPE or a woman who is pregnant and doesn't know the father is, or does know who the father is and it's not who it's supposed to be, or sperm donors, any of it. So I thought, why don't we start working on a library of information, basically?
Yeah.
So that, and I have 2 friends actually, and I'm not very old. I'm not very old. I'm not very young, but I'm not very old. And I have
just right.
And I'm practically perfect. I have 2 friends from like my age generation who have gotten pregnant and not told the men, and just like moved away and are now raising children.
Oh, they kept they kept the
You have
child.
to, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so it's still happening. Like this is sort of a generational phenomenon,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to be a lot broader than we think on the timeline.
Right.
So I just wonder, if there had been this information for these women at the time, would they have made a different decision?
You mean if the DNA?
Or like this truth is going to come out.
Right.
Like who the father is going to come out, and you are trying to keep it a secret because
You can't take anything with you to the grave anymore.
yeah, right. And we just didn't know that.
Sure.
And
why would we? Yeah.
And I'm not really defending anybody, but I 100% have so much empathy and understanding for my parents who made a decision in 1979, not knowing that 35 years later Facebook was going to come out.
Right.
And ruin everything.
It's so true.
Right? It's like I just totally. They really. So that's all of it. And then there's tons. Of course, there's tons more about my personal story. But that is the Cliff's Notes of how I got to be here today, sitting with you.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about confronting your mom?
Yeah. That was really, really hard. And something that I knew about myself is that I'm a person who wants to take care of everybody else. And I knew that my parents being in pain is almost unbearable for me.
Yeah.
So I knew that if they said anything, asked me anything, that I would do anything that they asked me to do in that moment if it would alleviate some of the discomfort. So what I was afraid they would do is say, "Oh my gosh, never contact that person ever again." And I would say, "Okay, I won't." Or I don't know, like come up with any example. My mind opened up to possibilities that I had never been aware of the kind of things they might ask of me or say to me, that I became worried that I would get myself into
You didn't
unwittingly.
want to be uncomfortable, so you would make a promise that
Right.
you couldn't necessarily keep.
Right.
Right.
So, and my parents have had, they've had a lot of challenges in their life. So this was not, and I don't know if it would be easier if like they've had a great life. So I was coming in with this bad information, or you've had a bad life and you're coming in with bad information.
Right.
I don't know which one is better, but I just was concerned about bringing yet something that clearly
Something
was a
else.
big deal.
Are you the youngest?
No, I'm the oldest.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing is I wrote a letter to my mom. I mailed the letter to my aunt, who is her sister, who's her best friend, or if anybody was going to know, it was her. It was going to be the sister. Mailed it to my aunt. My aunt drove to my mom's and delivered it to my mom so that she could be there, because I also didn't want my mom to be alone.
Oh, that's good.
So, and in the letter, I said, "This is the information I've got. I need to know if Dad knows, and I just need to process this for a little bit. So I'm not going to be in touch. I need some space." So we didn't have a face-to-face talk about it for 3 or 4 more months. And they immediately called me and immediately contacted my husband. And it turns out my dad did know that it was a possibility.
Oh, okay.
So,
that's a relief.
yeah, that was a relief.
Yeah.
I didn't want, I really didn't want to have
That's
to
a whole other
go
layer
down
of
that,
discomfort.
that
Ooh.
whole road. So, so they really wanted to talk right away. And I said, "No, let me just hold off." And that has had its benefits and its, I don't know, deficits. What's the
That's good.
yeah
Benefit, deficit.
benefit?
That works.
It's sort of
That tracks.
mostly I would suggest or recommend or say that was a really good idea to do it that way. And yet sometimes when my parents and I are talking about it now, they'll say, "Well, you weren't even upset," and I'm thinking like,
They're saying you weren't upset?
right, like I never expressed being very upset to them.
Well, that's because you didn't talk
I
to
didn't
them.
talk to them.
And that's why.
I know that. Right. So they'll say so they'll just make references like that, well, you haven't been talking about it, so we didn't think it was still even an issue for you. Or,
Oh, isn't that funny?
and I'm like, well, I don't want to talk about it because.
That's a generational thing.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about it because it's
uncomfortable.
really uncomfortable. And you cry every time. And I'm not, So we're still working on it together. But so my mom, the other sort of complicated. There's so many complicated elements, and it gets more and more exciting the more layers I tell you. But one thing is that my mom has one version of the story, which is not a very good one.
Okay.
It's kind of dark and sad.
Gotcha.
And he has a version of the story, the man who's my biological father, that is 100% the opposite of that. And there's no way for me, I think, to comfortably confront either of them.
Yeah.
And
get them in the same room at the same time and say, go.
Yeah, but it's like, no, that would be monstrous.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting in the Me Too era, and as a modern woman, as a feminist, to be given a version of things and so fiercely like fight for women today.
Yep.
And believing them. And then this woman is telling me to my face something from a long time ago that I feel I have no choice but to believe.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I've been through that recently with clients too.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to say I don't believe you, but it doesn't make sense.
Right. So there's things like that. Mm-hmm. The other, and there is religion involved, like very, very, very orthodox or conservative, evangelical religion is involved. So that plays a role in both of their stories. I'm sure that it makes both of their stories okay for both of them. And so we did the test. My husband contacted him and said, correct.
Correct.
You are
correct, sir.
Affirmative. So I forgot to even get into why my husband became a part, like the ambassador. He contacted my husband and not me. And
yes, interesting.
So my biological father, whose name is Peter, said that he thought I knew. He thought that I would have known by now and I would have figured it out.
Okay.
And that it's been very obvious the whole time.
Has he been tracking you?
And he's been tracking me.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just got goosebumps
me too.
about my own story. So he thought that maybe I did know and was choosing not to connect with him.
Okay.
And so he wanted to touch base with my husband because if
you knew and anybody else knew that you knew, it would be
right. And so it was like, does she know? Does she want to have anything to do with me? If not, I'll just go away and we'll never have had this conversation. Mm-hmm. There's also like probably some generational and religious issues in there about what he understands husband and wives to be about. Like he thought the whole conversation my husband would just keep a secret.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
I'm trying to decipher what I think you're saying.
Right. Okay. I think he just.
You don't have to.
No, I mean, I think it was just like he considered my husband the head of the household. And
is that where the Orthodox comes in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he thought that my husband was the head of the household and would be the decider about this situation anyway.
Wow.
And that my husband would not tell me that this guy contacted us if my husband didn't feel like it was a good idea, and that was the safest route.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he has been tracking me. I am a writer, and my life is pretty open book through the lens of essays all over the internet. Mm-hmm. I've been in Huffington Post and Cosmopolitan. He has been tracking me the whole time, and my 5 new siblings, they also have known about me for a very long time.
Really?
Yeah, like I have been a part of their narrative.
Okay.
For a very long time. Maybe for always.
So funny. It's so opposite of how it usually is.
Right.
Oh,
so
fascinating.
Right. So that was a year and a half ago, and then 2 months later, and he lived in Florida. 2 months later, I got contacted on Facebook again by somebody telling me that the funeral would be the next day, and he died totally unexpectedly of a blood clot.
Holy.
So I never met him.
You never met him? Mm-mm. Oh, that sucks.
Mm-hmm. It's weird.
So knows?
Yeah, it's really
I mean,
weird.
I didn't meet mine either, but he died 10 years before I found him. But wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
So I can't put them in the same room.
Have you met your siblings?
No.
Have you met anyone?
I have Skyped for a long time, like a 2-hour or a very long conversation with the woman who was married to him for 35 years.
Okay.
And they had recently divorced and he had a new wife. But so I don't want to say it was his widow, but it was the woman who knew him the most.
She knew a lot.
Yeah. She knew everything. Yeah.
Okay. And
and then all the siblings are out there and I have been in contact with some of them and I don't know how they feel. I think that it's really weird for all of us and I'm not sure we know what or how to do it. Yeah. And they have their own complicated history with this man. And I think that I represent a little bit of that. Mm-hmm. And so for them, I'm not necessarily I'm not a bad thing, but I don't know that I'm a good thing. I think none of us know what to do. I think I can't speak for them, but I don't know what to do. Yeah. So and I don't know. I talked on one of my episodes with somebody like I'm so busy. I have 3 children and I have a podcast and I have a private practice and I'm a writer and I don't have a ton of free time. And when I do, I'm not sure how to sit down and like get to know someone. Yeah. If I have an hour in my day, there's these people I don't know. I don't know if we have anything.
It's going to be way more entail so much more than you have time for.
Totally.
And that if you get started, you'll get lost. In
exactly.
A rabbit hole.
Or like, how do you get to know each other? Do we have anything in common? Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So when did you say, I need to do a podcast about this? Do tell.
I couldn't tell you exactly when it was other than just, kind of what I said before. Like, I just was like, oh my gosh, we have to start talking about this. We all have to start talking about this. And how are we going to make all this information available? Mm-hmm. And we all have these stories and there's no one has a boring story. Mm-hmm. They're all interesting. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. And I've never done a podcast. I don't know why that was the medium. As a writer, I don't know why that was the medium. I thought, I'll go do this instead of write about it. But
I think it's interesting to listen to people's conversations. Yeah. Like stream of consciousness, like you're eavesdropping almost on somebody. That's why I like it. That's why I like podcasts. Yeah. And that's why I like this format of a podcast because I like that it's conversational. And like, hey, we'll be right back after this break. Yep. You know? Yep. That's not me. No. Nor you. I
No. And it's so much more. I've actually, right now, it's exciting to get to be with you. I like this so much more than even being on the phone or with people. Which
I rarely get to do do.
It's really nice. Body language goes a long way and eye contact.
Yeah. That's true. Okay, what else? So you have not taken a consumer DNA test yet.
Correct.
And you have brought a consumer DNA test today.
I brought it here with me.
I'm excited. I will say I am, I wish it was Ancestry.
I knew that you would. Yep. I knew that about you.
Yep.
And this was, this is the consequence of being busy and running and getting what I could get.
I hear you.
So I did know that.
Okay.
But now you tell me, I can upload this to Ancestry.com after I do it? No. They're not crossover?
They're not crossover. No.
Okay. All right, then I will also do Ancestry.
You can upload to GEDmatch and to FTDNA.
Okay.
And then you can also, once you're in GEDmatch and FTDNA, you can transfer to DNA Painter.
Sure.
Which is a whole other extravaganza. But yeah, this is good. And I will say, as much as I say, don't do 23andMe if you can only do one. Mm-hmm. I did solve my first 23andMe only case the other day.
Oh, so congratulations.
It's possible. It's
okay.
not preferable, but it can be done.
Okay.
So as long as somebody talks to you.
Okay.
You know.
Right.
Anyway. So.
Yeah, I figured I feel like I should do them all. Mm-hmm. So this was just the way I could get the first one here for us.
Okay, so we're back, and Eve is spitting as we speak. The last time we did this was my very first podcast with Renee, with my co-host, and she did in the room.
Oh,
And,
yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm sorry, I'm taking a sip of water.
Yeah,
I
right in
apologize,
front of me.
because you can't.
There's something about being somebody who hadn't taken one of these, but being a part of the community that felt like I was
Behind the times.
behind the times, but also like it gave me something original or
Yeah.
something unique about it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm giving something away now a little bit, or like for lack of a better expression, like it's popping my DNA cherry or something.
Sure.
I don't know if that's
That
terrible.
works.
I'm sorry.
No, I would have said that, but you thought of it first. So after when your results come back, I'm gonna look at them, and we're gonna see what are you hoping. I shouldn't ask you questions while you're spitting. What are you hoping to?
One thing is that that I think is interesting is that I got one email from Peter before he died. Well, it was to my husband, and it talked about.
Wait, he kept writing to your husband, not you?
No, just one. Like he said, okay, the results are affirmative. Give us a minute, and then he wrote back like a nice letter that was like, okay, tell Eve to take her time. Here's a little paragraph about some things.
Sure.
And in it, he said, our family goes back to the Mayflower. Our family goes back to Plymouth Rock or something like that. It was like, I mean, I can look up the email. I had my husband send it to me before I came over.
Right.
Something about like the founding of America and the founding fathers. And then, so here's the thing. Recently on Twitter, I connected with somebody who has the same last name as me. And she said, are we related? And I said, I don't know. And she said, my dad's obsessed with genealogy. Give me this information. So I did. And she said, we are cousins. And she said, and we go all the way back to the Mayflower, to Plymouth Rock. So here's the thing, though. That is my birth certificate dad's name. And, okay, so get this. There weren't that many people at Plymouth Rock on the Mayflower. So these two men.
From what people say, apparently it was an ark.
Right. These two men were maybe in the same community.
That's crazy.
And then, 10 generations later.
Oh, we got to get onto this.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that like, there's something really, and now they're like mortal enemies. My dad is like, really hates this guy.
Really?
Well, the man who raised me really hates this guy.
Okay.
For maybe obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And so to think like, oh, but like 5 generations ago, you guys like plowed the land together or whatever.
You homesteaded right next to each other, whatever that is.
Yeah. And so I'm interested in that, if they both go back that far.
Yeah.
And then the other more contemporary interest I have is that I think the man who's my biological father, I suspect he's a sex addict, a sex addict. And I bet there are many siblings. And so I'm
sure. I thought you were going to say there are like maybe there are sex addict markers in the.
So I need to
know.
know.
Spit, take her own spit.
So I need to know. If that's why I have a voracious appetite. No.
Does it run in the family?
Yes. Is it passed down? No. So anyway, and maybe that's a diagnosis that's neither here nor there. The point is, I believe there are more siblings out there.
Probably. Although, did he track them all, do you think?
No.
So.
I don't think he was tracking them all.
Okay.
At all, I think.
Interesting. I wonder, so he obviously knew about you. He knew that your mom got pregnant, and he thought that he was probably the father.
Yeah, and he was my dad's best friend and lived in their house.
Okay. So, all right.
Yeah, see, it just like
now, yeah,
I know.
I get it.
I'm not even purposefully like hiding the eggs, but it's
just
like
every little thing that comes up is like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So he knew, and they all had mutual friends, and they were all a part of the same church.
Okay.
So her being pregnant and having a baby was not, they were all in the same community. So,
oh wow,
yeah,
that's a Lifetime movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, keep spitting. Okay, so you have done that, and then when the results come back, we're gonna check him out. Maybe we'll do another segment, and we'll look at it, and hopefully. And I have told Eve she has to do ancestry because, in order for me to be able to build a tree to figure out if they do indeed go back to the Mayflower, then did we talk about that on air?
The Mayflower?
Yeah, we did.
I think we did.
Okay. I don't remember anymore. So, so we're gonna. Thanks so much.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun and exciting, and and I feel like I said I feel a little bit nervous about it, but it's nice to be here with you and know that I have sort of a plan.
Yeah,
as opposed to just sort of like jumping off a cliff into this. So that feels really good. So thank you.
I'll hold your hand through this one.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Tell the listeners about your podcast because, guys, we're going to continue our conversation. Only Eve is going to interview me over at Eve's podcast, which is
Everything's Relative by Eve Sturges.
And it can be found.
And it can be found on anywhere the podcasts are heard, all of the streaming platforms.
Basically the same place where you find this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right. And if you guys want to hear my story again, I'm sure there'll be other aspects that you have not heard that we'll get to. Come on over and have a listen. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. The truth is in your genes. Bye.